actually thought when Jay Hill and Jernaro Gilford left to Michigan, I thought Satuwala was gone. I thought his loyalty was either towards Jay or Jernaro or both, and that if either of them left, BYU had was going to have a really hard time retaining him. Both of them leave, and he still gets retained, and I think that says a lot about Kalani. Hello and welcome to the Aptive Podcast Studio. This is the Loyal Cougars Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Edmonds. Once again, alongside Tosh McIntosh. Tosh, happy 2026.
Happy to be here. We made it.
How was your new year?
It was good. It was, we went and did fireworks. We had, Maggie's grandma growing up always did crab. And so we went and bought a bunch of crab, and I love crab. It was a great New Year's.
Crab for New Year's.
Oh yeah.
Very nice. My wife's birthday is New Year's Eve.
Nice.
She actually, her claim to fame is that she's like 16 days younger than Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Like to the year. So, anyway, so
she bold claim to fame.
Yeah, I think Taylor's is like December 16th or something weird, and hers is December 31st. Yeah, it was great. Every year we celebrate a birthday and New Year's Eve. My wife growing up, she was almost kind of told as a kid, like, hey, everyone in the world celebrates your birthday on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, fireworks are for her.
That's what we did. We did fireworks and stayed up till midnight and everything. Kind of a slow week, I think, for BYU sports in terms of on the field and on the court action, but we did see a lot of drama. And if there's anything that we enjoy most on this show, it's your smiling face, your hot takes, and drama.
We love drama.
We love drama on the show. We're going to start off, though, with the Cougarboard merch drop. I actually really like the stuff that's in this drop. So we've got this hat. Sean, did we put the names of these things on here? Let me look at the rundown here. We've got the Gothic Brigham Houndstooth hat. And this is kind of really cool material on the brim if you're watching on YouTube. Obviously, the Goth Brigham on the front, and then the Sailor Cougar on the side. This is kind of like a not a white, but it's kind of like an off-white color with some black and gray accent colors as well. I love that.
So nice. This is a good item. This is one that you should be getting online and getting right now. So Brigham Young on the front in the nice little cursive, white with royal print, and then this really cool BYU logo in the back. So very nice feeling shirt, high quality. This is one you should pick up.
That is the heavyweight vintage stacked BYU tee. And this is the Rise and Shout hoodie. Love this kind of alternative logo with the Y and the old school kind of cougar on the front. And then right on the back, big and bold Rise and Shout. Black hoodie. Love that. We're going to give away this week the T-shirt, so the stacked BYU tee, as well as the Houndstooth hat. I'm sorry to see this go because I really
kind of wanted
hat.
it.
Yeah, but I have enough hats. My wife says I don't need any more hats, so we're gonna give this one away. Comment on YouTube, like, subscribe, and we'll reach out to you if we select you as the winner, and we'll find a way to get that over to you. We got some BYU basketball to talk about, but first, the drama. Right. And this is kind of drama that we knew was coming, I feel like, with Kyle Whittingham leaving Utah. We figured what I think is funny is that Utah fans feel that they seem so upset and offended at what Kyle is doing. And Kyle is doing what any coach in the country would do when they leave a program. They're gonna especially for a bigger program, right? They're gonna poach the best guys that they know of, that they've coached with, that they're familiar with. They're going to poach those guys and bring them along.
Correct.
It happens at every level of football.
They're trying to win. That's what they're getting paid to do. That's what they're going to be judged off of. And so they're going to do what they think will give them the best chance of winning. And if that includes taking players and coaches with them, then that is absolutely what they'll do.
Yeah. So we're going to start real quick just with the transfer portal because we are in the portal period. I think it ends next week. And we'll get a little bit more into Kyle and how he affects the coaching situation at BYU as well as Utah. But there's a little bit of some backlash, or not backlash, but fallout from Kyle leaving in the transfer portal as well because he's taken a lot of Utah guys with him. Now, granted, not everyone has necessarily committed to Michigan yet. Like John Henry Daly entered the portal. Smith Snowden's in the portal. A few other Utah guys are in the portal. They have not announced specifically that they're going to Michigan, but the likelihood is that they will. Smith, there may be a little bit of a chance that he goes to BYU.
Yeah.
But we thought that there may be a possibility that he's going to take some BYU guys with him, and we haven't seen that yet.
For sure. When like Jay was a little bit of a roller coaster on what he was doing, but the common thought was if he goes to Michigan, he's going to take some of our best guys. And Satuala was the name that got brought up the most, that people were just acting like that was a given, that he's a Jay Hill guy. But he's already announced he's coming back to BYU. Yeah. And so he leads a really healthy list of Cougar players that have warmed my heart by saying they are coming back to BYU.
Isn't it funny how we've gone from players committing out of high school and announcing their commitments out of high school and wanting to make it really all about them, and that's their right and their prerogative on social media if they want the following to post that stuff out on social media. We've now gone from that to people posting about coming back. Players posting about coming back to BYU when it's like 5-10 years ago that was almost expected. Like, yeah, dude, you're here for 4 years. Like when you signed on out of high school, you committed for 4 years. Now, granted, some players would still transfer. There was still kind of this like subset of players that weren't happy or whatever. They had a reason to transfer, and so they transfer. They'd sit out a year in some cases.
Yeah.
And that was like a big deal. And now it's like 4,000 players or more have entered the portal. I think it's like 30. I read it was like 32% of all players are in the portal right now. It's like it's become almost as common to enter the portal as it is to come back to the school that you played with the year before.
It's absolutely crazy. And I think it's even more important than high school signing is how do you do in the portal and keeping your players and getting some in. I saw on the great resource that is Cougarboard that someone went and did all the math on the four final teams that are in the playoffs. 48% of their starters were from the transfer portal. And Indiana was over 60% of their starters this year came from the transfer portal.
Including their quarterback.
And so, like, it is the way of the future. It is what the best teams are doing, is that you have to get people that are proven instead of taking risks on young guys.
Yeah. It's becoming more and more like an NFL model where you have a draft, right? You have, and granted, the NCAA doesn't have a draft. You're still recruiting players out of high school, but it's less about, hey, who can I get that I can develop into a player? It's less about getting raw talent or high potential guys, and it's more about getting guys that are 4 and 5 star guys now and paying them as much as you can to be able to outbid other teams. To get them, and when I say now, I mean they have to be ready to play freshman, sophomore season. Otherwise, you're basically recruiting a player for somebody else.
Correct.
That's going to be playing likely on another team, especially if they're not starting as a freshman or a sophomore.
Yeah.
And so now the focus has shifted from, and we've talked about this before, but the focus has really shifted from recruiting out of high school to now recruiting out of the portal, and it's become this kind of free agency approach now. And it's like free agency on steroids. Because free agency in the NFL only happens after a player finalizes their contract.
Yeah, it's
right?
maybe once every 3 to 5 years that player can move.
And usually there's like options, like there's a team option if you want to sign up for another year, you would take that option, or a player option if the player wants to decide to stay for another year. Every single year it is a player or a team option to retain that player or for that player to come back to that school.
Yeah.
And so it's literally free agency on steroids. Bear Bachmeier could tomorrow enter the transfer portal and nobody could stop him. So you're essentially, when you come out of high school, you're signing a 1-year contract to play for that school. And even then you could transfer mid-year, right? I mean, I guess you can, and
there's some slight restrictions, but
you can't enter the portal.
Yeah.
But in Sam Levitt's case, this is kind of an interesting concept because there were these theories going around with Sam Levitt that revolved around Coach Kenny Dillingham not being happy with him getting hurt, the way he got hurt. And so Sam was almost, and this is very much a theory, right? This is not a report. Nobody actually knows what happened behind the scenes. But the fact that Sam Levitt was not at the banquet, the senior banquet, the fact that Sam Levitt essentially knew where he was going to go right when the season ended.
He entered the portal as a do not contact, meaning he already knew where he was going, which is Kentucky.
So the theory is that Kenny Dillingham essentially sat Sam Levitt. Now, granted, he was hurt, I think. I don't know if it was a season-ending injury. I mean, they announced that it was, and so I have to assume that it was. But it sounds like the way he got hurt, Kenny was not happy about. And Sam took a lot of flack for it. Otherwise, why would he not be coming back, right? He was starting quarterback for a pretty successful Arizona State team that made it to the conference championship last year. Like, there's no reason for him not to come back other than somebody is unhappy with somebody else, right? And so, again, all that to say is that, like, if you tick off one of your players, he's gone.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing keeping that player from going. And that kind of bringing this all back around to BYU, it's very impressive what BYU has been able to do. Now, granted, we're only halfway through the portal period, and so things can still happen. But the guys that have announced coming back, that they are coming back. So Satawal is the one you mentioned, Parker Kingston, and we can rank these in order of like importance. Nusi Tamoipeau is going to be a star at BYU. He's a freshman this year, and made a massive impact towards the end of the year. Like he's going to be
his edge rushing skills are maybe the best on the team.
He's a maniac.
Yeah,
he kind of reminds me of like almost like a Kyle Whittingham. Not Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah,
I have Kyle Whittingham in my brain. Almost like a Kyle Van Noy. Just this motor, this constant motor that knows where to be at the right time. Trey Alexander's coming back. Raider Damuni announced. Andrew Gentry, Sonny Mekassini, Kyle Safarchuk. So a lot of these offensive linemen, Bruce Mitchell announced he's coming back. So 4 offensive linemen, which is phenomenal.
All 4 starters.
You lose Jota, you lose a couple other guys, but you bring back a lot of guys who have a lot of experience on the offensive line.
Yep.
Which is very important. Now you need some depth, right? You need to bring in some additional pieces. Anisi Purcell, Cialia Serra, and Keanu Tanavasa. And Keanu Tanavasa, like as much as we've kind of harped on him, he is an anchor.
He's our best current interior defensive lineman. So you want to keep that guy.
Yeah, exactly. And granted, yes, he could be better, and we've harped on him. There are things that I think he can improve on, but one more year back is going to be big for BYU to be able to. If that guy had entered the portal, he would be one of the best D tackles in the
for sure. People would want him.
So it's good. John Taumaipeau also announced that he's trying to get another year of eligibility. He was a senior this year, but he's a JUCO transfer, so he's trying to get that JUCO year of eligibility back.
Yeah.
If we can get him back, that just adds to the depth and adds to the experience.
The main story when I hear this list and I hear about what you just talked about how easy it is for people to leave, is that in today's world, a player's coach and a likable coach goes so much further than it used to. Mm-hmm. Like, I actually don't think that the Nick Saban way works very well anymore, because that hard-nosed, non-friendly, like you just can't keep your guys. Versus, I think Kalani is proving he is exactly the right coach for now, because his players freaking love him. And they say that, but they say it with their actions. Again, we just lost Jay Hill. We lost Jernaro Gilford, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit. But who stayed? Kalani Sitake, who the players love and are loyal to and are willing to say, hey, as long as he's the head coach, I'm coming back.
Yeah, I think there's a spectrum. And when I say that is, I think there's, you talk about love languages, right, when relationships. I think there are aspects of a coach that players they gravitate to. Mm-hmm. And so if you're a player's coach like Kalani, those types of players are going to gravitate towards Kalani. Curt Cignetti is a guy that is like a Saban.
Yeah.
Bronco Mendenhall is a guy that is like a Saban. It's very much like, we don't recruit you, you recruit us. That was what Kalani was like known for, right? And Curt Cignetti's not going to be a player coach, but he's a coach that players that are super competitive, they want to win games, they'll do what it takes, including practice at the highest level, right? Like, you have some players who are just like, I just want to show up to games and play at an elite level and not have to worry about practice. Curt Cignetti does not allow that. And players gravitate towards that.
You're right. Being real, it comes down to 2 things. One, if they like the coach and trust in the future. But 2 is the money.
Yeah,
and
sure.
BYU's got some good NIL right now. Indiana has good NIL, and that's going to get players to stay and transfer to your program.
Yeah. By the way, we apologize if you're hearing sounds in the background.
We're in a little bit of a construction zone today. So
we're like tucked away in a podcast room in the corner of a building that's like totally under construction all
Star
around
Wars edition, if you guys hear lightsabers and maybe Jurassic Park going on.
Yeah, Sean says it sounds like T-Rex in the background. So apologize if you hear the sounds. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's a culture thing too, right? Like, if you can establish a winning culture, regardless of how you're coaching, right? I don't think there's a wrong or a right way to approach coaching style, as long as you're winning football games. And Kalani's showing he can do that. Curt Cignetti's showing he can do that. And again, like that, these players that are announcing they're coming back, they gravitate towards that. And I actually thought when Jay Hill and Jernaro Gilford left to Michigan, I thought Satuala was gone. I thought his loyalty was either towards Jay or Jernaro or both, and that if either of them left, BYU had was going to have a really hard time retaining him. Both of them leave, and he still gets retained. And I think that says a lot about Kalani.
Correct.
So who are we still kind of waiting on? And this is a Monday morning. We're recording really before the transfer period ends, and anybody can enter the transfer portal within this week, and things could flip on their head. We could also hear about a defensive coordinator announcement anytime this week, maybe today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about that in a way that may be a little more evergreen, right? I think it's K-pop, right? I think it's pretty solidly K-pop. We'll talk about that in a second. But guys that we're still kind of waiting to hear about, and we may not until the end of the transfer period. Guys don't have to announce they're coming back. They can just come back. Right?
Yeah.
They can just not announce they're leaving.
Yeah.
But in terms of who we're waiting on, Bear Bachmeyer, Evan Johnson, LJ, it's more of we're waiting to see if he's entering the draft, which I'm expecting him to. It sounds like he
Correct.
was kind
The
of
only way he comes back is if he gets some sort of feedback that he's not going to get drafted.
Yeah. And I think projections have him in the 3rd round.
I think he does get drafted, so that's why
Yeah.
I think he goes.
Yeah. And it's a matter of like where you get drafted. Like I don't know if you want to go if you're going to get drafted in the 7th round, unless you feel like the money's there, unless you feel like you're going to get picked up by a team and not a practice squad. I think he would make more money at BYU in that case.
Yeah.
Staying for another year and maybe increases his stock, but that's still an announcement we're waiting to hear. I'd love to have him back. Sione Moa is another guy. If LJ does leave, does Sione come back? And it's even less about like, does he enter the transfer portal versus is he healthy, right? Does he hang it up like with his health? So that's kind of an announcement I'm a little bit anxious to hear, only because like we don't have any depth. Jovessa Damuni is who we saw at Georgia Tech. I know you love him. We've heard a lot about him from A-Rod. I'm skeptical.
You need more guys in the room.
Yeah, you need the depth for sure.
He's not an every down back. He to me is someone that should be used as like a hybrid slot / running back. But anyway. We need running back depth. So if those guys don't come back, we better see some guys that we're signing from other squads.
Yeah, and I still think even if Sione comes back, even if Jovessa and Preston Rex, like if those guys come back, you still need to get guys out of the portal.
Yes.
And there's plenty of guys to be had. Bodie Schoonover is also kind of this waiting on guy, and then Isaiah Glasker. And I think all those guys, minus LJ, will probably come back. I'd be surprised if they don't. But you never know with the portal. Here's the thing with the portal. I think if they were going to enter the portal, they would already be there.
Glasker, though, could get feedback that he's going to get drafted. Like, I think he's another one that comes down to.
Sure.
If he came back, though, and he's healthy, like he played this whole year hurt, like all over the place. And so if he can come back healthy, he might be the number 1 most important player. But I think that he's going to perform well at Pro Day or the Combine if he got invited to that. And I think Glasker's gone. But.
Give me your top 5 returning players and then the one guy that you hope out of that list, the one guy you hope the most comes back.
Satuala, Kingston. I mean, he's become like just more impactful with every game.
He'll be the number 1 target next year.
And then Nusi, freshman, just beast edge rusher. And then I'd need to go Tanuvasa and Trey Alexander. Like, I didn't say any O-linemen, which is kind of crazy, but part of that's because all of them.
The whole O-line.
Well, they're all coming back, and so it makes it hard. And I also still have some PTSD of I just saw Texas Tech just make our O-line look silly. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of in the camp we need to upgrade there, but that starts with keeping your good guys. Going to your other question, though. Who am I most anxious to see? It's got to be Bear Bachmeyer.
Yeah.
Like, if Bear leaves, we're in another off season of who do we have at the most important position. And so there's really some goodness of continuity of having a good quarterback come back.
Yeah, and I think in terms of likelihood of guys leaving, I think Bear is probably low on the list. I think Evan Johnson's somewhat low on the list. I feel like he announced after the bowl game, maybe not directly, but indirectly announced that he's coming back. And so I think the likelihood of either of those guys leaving is pretty low. I would love LJ to me. I think the likelihood of him coming back is low, but he's the guy that if he does come back, it's a game changer for BYU's offense. we've seen what he can do to alleviate a lot of the pressure from Bear. And Bear performs really well when he's not as much as any quarterback would, right? When you're not as much under pressure. So LJ coming back would be a massive addition/retention for this BYU offense. I don't think it happens, but that would be who I would want to come back. My top 5 returning players, Satawala, clear number 1. Kingston, I think, is number 2, although he's another guy that I think was likely to come back anyway, and so not a super big surprise. Nusi, I actually have these listed in the order that I would put them. So I put Satawala, Kingston, Nusi's number 3, Trey Alexander 4, and then Raider Dumuni number 5, I actually put. Because, as much as he was kind of overshadowed a little bit by Falata Satawala, he had some pretty big plays. And
for sure, Raider Dumuni, he's a player.
And he was a starter last year, right? I guess he was a starter alongside Crew Wakely, right? It was Crew Wakely, Tanner Wall, Raider Dumuni. But Raider really pushed. Crew transferred essentially because that safety room got too deep.
Ethan Slade, too, was another guy that played a lot and started some games last year that was also told, hey, we got young guys, and so they really bet on Raider and Satawala because they saw their potential.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how it transpires this year with Satawala another year under his belt. I think Raider's going to be a senior this year, so it'll be fun to see those two guys. Now, can they get the depth behind them? We'll see, but those two guys are going to be menaces in the defensive secondary. So kind of moving on to who's announced that they're in the portal. This list to me is more encouraging than the list of people who are coming back. And
Correct.
I'll explain why. These guys are not this isn't to say that these guys are not valuable or they won't be valuable for the team they transfer to, but as of end of season, these guys were not on the 2 deep other than McKay Hillstead. So the list is McKay Hillstead, LeMason Waller, and we've talked about him already, Dominic McKenzie, Ignacio Tupuo.
Good try.
I don't even know names of, and I probably should. So I'm sure if you ask Mitch Harper, he would know because he knows all of these guys' names. Yeah, it's like his superpower is he knows the names of every single player on the team because he follows them like nobody else does. Sione Hingano, Jake Griffin, Tucker Kelleher, who's a tight end, Sani Tuala, and then Marcus McKenzie announced recently as well. Marcus McKenzie is a guy who was on the 2 deep to start the year, but got pushed down the depth chart. And so other than Hillstead and Marcus McKenzie at one point of the year, there's not a lot of production that is leaving BYU.
The player on there that hurts is Waller.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping BYU tries to keep him. He was a big time recruit just 1 year ago. I think he could. We have a receiver room that is thin. What I heard is that he was disgruntled because he got injured early and then never really got a look again. And so I'm hoping that they are trying to get him back. Outside of that, I agree with you, and this is harsh to say, but these guys, I think, all saw the writing on the wall that they weren't going to be very impactful at BYU even in the future. And that's the type of guys you kind of have to have leave so that you have scholarship spots to bring in new guys.
Cougar fans, Stadium Classics is here, a BYU-inspired limited drop built around tradition and timeless game day style. From the heavyweight vintage stacked BYU tee to the relaxed Rise and Shout hoodie and the gothic Brigham Houndstooth hat. With old school texture, every piece feels like it belongs in the Marriott Center. No gimmicks, just classic Cougar gear for fans who still bring the noise. Go to store.cougarboard.com to shop the Stadium Classics drop now. Rise and Shout. Again, at the end of the day, these are not guys that are chasing bags. These are guys that want to. Now, when I say that,
they're chasing opportunity.
Exactly, which could come with a bag.
Yes.
Right. But these are guys that did not have a chance at BYU. They have not had a chance at BYU. They want to try their luck or their skill set somewhere else. And I don't blame them for that. I don't blame BYU for allowing that to happen. Right. That's just the nature of the transfer portal nowadays. And again, going back to those guys that have announced they're transferring says a lot about BYU's ability to retain their starters, to retain high production players from the year before so far, right? We're not spiking the football yet. We still have a week or so to go. But if that is your list, then you're in good shape. Now go out and get guys from the portal to replace them, right?
Yeah.
That's the next step. And part of that is then who is BYU targeting so far? And what's interesting, and I listened to Jay Catch on the way in, talking about why has BYU not really signed? You've seen. I think Brendan Sorsby just announced that he's going to Texas Tech.
Yeah.
By the way, Texas Tech, This is kind of a little
They're
bit.
getting dudes again.
But have you seen their schedule next year?
No.
They don't play Utah. They don't play BYU.
Huh.
They don't. Their toughest opponent is Arizona, and both Arizona schools actually, and they play them at home. Their non-conference schedule is like Abilene Christian, Oregon State. I think is on there. They don't have a good non-conference schedule. I think Oregon State is their toughest non-conference game. They're going to go undefeated.
Yeah.
I think they will go undefeated unless, barring major
they're
injuries.
signing, like Kansas State's, like debatably best defenders going there, and like they're signing dudes. Like they're reloading.
They are reloading, and their schedule's not good. So we just prepare yourself for another Texas Tech conference championship run. Now, who competes with them? Who plays them in the conference championship game? Hopefully BYU, but we'll see. But as far as who BYU is targeting as of today. And granted, I don't know if we've actually seen any announcement that BYU has offered these guys, but just that it's kind of an obvious, like, these guys have ties to BYU. Walker Lyons is the biggest name, a tight end out of USC. He's a 4-star 90 composite score on 24/7. Obviously brother of Ryder Lyons. And so the expectation is that he'll replace Carson Ryan, which I think is a huge gap to fill for BYU. So I would expect BYU to offer him, and he's probably going to end up at Provo. Leona Lefau is out of Texas, linebacker out of Texas. He's a 2-year starter. Another 4-star 90 composite score on 24/7, a guy that BYU recruited out of high school. And so it feels very much like BYU should and will be targeting him as well. So those are really the only 2 guys so far that we've heard reports of having ties to BYU. Now, I think BYU also offered Junior Sia out of Utah State, offensive lineman.
Yep.
A guy that started, I think, all of their games this season.
Pretty highly rated. I think he's right tackle.
So that would be. Did you see his announcement, by the way?
Yeah.
Very just nonchalant.
But I clicked into it, and his other ones, he's just done the same thing. He's been consistent with that.
He's just a chill dude. Yeah.
Correct.
He just says BYU offered, and then a picture of the Y logo.
BYU logo. Yeah. Very, very chill.
Yeah. So BYU is offering him. It sounds like they might have a chance with him. The one, and we brought this up before, the one kind of wild card that would, I think, explode a lot of heads in Utah would be Smith Snowden.
So on that, 2 things. One is 30 days ago, it was the prevailing thought Smith Snowden was going to come to BYU next year. And so, but then so much of his staff and his contacts go to Michigan. That opens things up of, well, what are they going to offer him? Does he feel more comfortable, new place, but some of the same coaches? And then this morning, he announced the teams he's visiting this week: Colorado, BYU, Michigan, Georgia, and Oregon. So he's kind of going to the who's who for cornerbacks, and then the BYU, the local schools. So anyway, should be interesting. We made the 5 schools he's visiting. We're in the hunt. Mm-hmm. Good player. Funny enough, though, he had way more hype last offseason. He had a solid year, but he actually didn't have the year that people thought he was going to have. I'm still fully in that. I would love to have Smith Snowden out on our defense camp, but and obviously with the type of caliber of the schools that are willing to look at him, there's still enough hype out there on him that he's going to end up at a good spot.
So if he comes to BYU, I mean, where do you put him?
Nickel.
You put him in nickel?
Yeah. And he may start over Trey Alexander. We love Trey, but that would be I think that's the question mark is does he win that spot over Trey or does he start at nickel?
Yeah, and I don't know.
Because we have the other thing we didn't mention that now this gives us a second is Raider Damouni and Satuala play the exact same position. They both play strong safety.
Well, Satuala has been both. He backed up Tanner Wall and Raider.
Correct, but his natural position is strong safety, and there is talk that he might move to linebacker, or in the NFL he would be linebacker, and so he's already kind of tipping towards the bigger positions instead of free safety. What is awesome though, and pinch me, is that we're having a conversation if we got too many stars in the defensive backfield of where do they all start, and That hasn't happened at BYU ever, and we're living in that world right now.
It's a problem Utah used to have.
Correct.
In fact, I mean, even this llast year they had it, right? It's a good problem to have. I do think Smith Snowden is a little undersized. He's a phenomenal cornerback, right? He's a phenomenal defensive back. I do think nickel is where I would put him as well if he's comfortable with that position. I think he played corner, right?
Yeah, he did.
A little bit different. I think the assignments are a little bit different between corner, outside corner and nickel. He also played a little bit of offense at Utah. So do you put him? Do you line him up on the offensive side of the ball at BYU?
They kind of stopped doing that, and I don't know if that was on his end or on Utah's end. But you're absolutely right. He had a touchdown reception, and early in the season he was playing a lot of offense, and it kind of went away. But I don't know if that's on his end or Utah's end.
Yeah, I don't know, and it very well could have been just Kyle deciding he didn't want to hurt. John Henry Daly got hurt. He had some guys getting hurt. Granted, John Henry Daly didn't play both sides of the ball, but you start losing. Plus, I think throughout the year they realized they're getting a lot of production out of their tight ends and out of their quarterback, and so they didn't really need to rely on a Smith Snowden or a Lander Barton. They could
correct.
They could just rely on their offensive weapons.
They led the NCAA in rushing yards per attempt. So
yeah.
So what I am yelling into the universe every day is...
Are you actually?
No.
That'd be funny.
But I should be.
You should.
Is we need a running back. We need to sign a running back or two and some defensive linemen.
I'd say O-linemen too.
Correct. But I put them third.
Sure.
But those are the top three positions that it's like, I'm just getting anxious with every day. I see other teams signing guys, and it's like, why are we not getting those positions committing? And hopefully we're working on it, and we're going to get some big news.
I'm sure they are. And again, a lot of this comes down to this kind of fallout from Kyle Whittingham's exit from Utah. We talked about what it could mean for BYU, and it sounds like it is coming to, so far it has come to fruition that Kyle has poached Jay Hill and Jernaro Gilford. Surprisingly, that has not really damaged BYU like I thought it would. And I already said, I thought those two leaving they'd bring a lot of players with them. And so far, zero. No players have transferred from BYU to Michigan. And especially no players that had any ties to Jay Hill or Jernaro Gilford. And so, it's not as impactful. Now, where it is impactful is Utah. And we're going to make this a Utah podcast for just 5 minutes because this affects BYU's recruiting. You've said that, there's nothing personal against Utah fans, but BYU's best interest, BYU fans, the interest of BYU fans, is for Utah to struggle mightily so that BYU can recruit better in state. And I think the fact that Utah really got gutted by Kyle Whittingham leaving, and to be honest, it's almost. Here's what I think is funny. I think it's interesting that Utah fans are so down right now on Kyle Whittingham after 20 years of success at Utah, 2 BCS bowl games, right? They're so down on him when it wasn't his decision to leave Utah in the first place.
Correct. Their number one anger in my mind should be directed at Harlan.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know all the insides of what happened there, but on Harlan's watch, they had their head coach, their best coach they've ever have, leave, and he left ticked off. And that's a bad place to be.
Yeah. Especially when it goes to a P2 school, right?
Correct. I understand, though, why they're so mad at Whittingham, because he was part of the family. And now he left, and he's actively doing things that hurt the family. And that's not because, again, we started the show. He's just doing what's in his best interest.
He's got a new family.
Now he's part of a new family.
Right.
And where the family analogy leaves is that he's trying to take the best from the other family, and that's not like a thing in the family world. But
the analogy dies there.
Yes, but I understand both sides. But of course, he is the number one enemy right now of who is hurting Utah sports is Kyle Whittingham.
Yeah. I think we said this last week. I don't blame anybody per se for what happened, right? I don't think Mark Harlan would have ever anticipated Kyle Whittingham going to Michigan when he quote unquote pushed him out, right? I don't think Scally anticipated not having any staff remaining when Kyle Whittingham, right? Because I think this kind of boils down to Scally wanted to coach. And again, I don't blame Scally for wanting to be a head coach. He's been waiting for 5 years.
And Kyle had signaled that he didn't think he would coach past 65, and he's 66.
Yes.
He has multiple years of lots of hints that, hey, he's probably ready to hang it up. He had all of his family go to the last game because it was going to be his last game. And then he changes his mind. And so he's part of the problem here.
He dragged it out. And it's very much
he sent the wrong signals.
He did the same thing with Cam Rising, right? He just drags it out. He will not tell people. He's like an Aaron Rodgers, right?
Yeah.
He's gone and then he's back, and he's gone and then he's back. And so, again, I don't blame Scally per se for saying, hey, look, I've been waiting for this long, and I keep getting this whiplash of like, okay, I'm going to be head coach next year, and then I'm actually not, and then I have to wait another year, and then I'm going to be head coach next year. And I don't blame Mark Harlan for siding with the future of your program, right? Because it could very well have been that Morgan Scally said, hey, I am gone. I'm gone. I'm going to go to Penn State if I'm not a head coach this next year. Mark Harlan's got to be like, okay, well, you're the future. We've already named you head coach in waiting. If we let you go and Kyle Whittingham coaches for one more year, we're long term in a worse place than we would have been had Kyle just left. And again, at that point, they're probably thinking, well, if Kyle just steps down, he's going to retire, right? And that that's no skin off our back. Kyle's gone. We leave him a lasting legacy. He's going to make $995,000 a year to be an analyst or to be a consultant for the team, and things will be great. Nobody anticipated Kyle to do what he did. And again, I don't blame Kyle for doing what he did, which is, he still said he still had a lot of gas in the tank. He wanted to continue coaching. Michigan's job opened up literally within a week. And so I think he even said there were only 5 coaching positions that he would even consider coming out of quote unquote retirement. He wasn't retired, but he would even consider leaving Utah, and Michigan was one of them. And so the way this has all transpired, I don't know if I don't know if Kyle is the guy to be angry at, other than him saying, I'm leaving this place. I'm leaving this university in a better place. I'm leaving this team in a better place. And then for him to go 2 weeks later and just completely gut the team and leave it in a worse place, it's a little bit insincere. But again, this is a business. Your job, it would be a disservice for him to go to another university. I don't care if it's the NFL. I don't care if it's an FCS school. Your job is to get the best talent and the best coaches to have success. Otherwise, it's a disservice to you and it's a disservice to your new employer. And so I don't think Kyle had any other option than to go for the best guys that he knew and that he was comfortable with. And so then we come back to him poaching Jay Hill and Jernaro Gilford, and that was minimal compared to what Utah got, which is they lose Jason Beck, they lose Jim Harding, who's been a longtime offensive line coach at Utah under Kyle Whittingham. Very much Utah fans are very familiar with him, but kind of a behind the scenes
puts guys in the
guy.
NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, recruits well.
Had a lot of success coaching great offensive linemen. Freddie Whittingham obviously leaving as well. Lewis Powell, Micah Simon, and Coy Detmer Jr. All guys, and Jason Beck, Jim Harding, obviously the biggest guys that had the biggest impact and the most production. But all guys that Utah's going to have a hard time replacing. They've already signed a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator, neither of which are super, how do I say this, sexy hires, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of question marks. You just don't know. They could be great. They could fall flat on their face, and it'll be interesting to see how Utah does. And obviously, we talked about John Henry Daly leaving. Smith Snowden's already in the portal. Teo Johnson also in the portal. And so they're not only losing coaches, they're losing players as well. And why does this matter for BYU? It's in-state recruiting. And if Utah can start to struggle in-state and BYU can start to get that snowball rolling, right, and they start picking up more recruits, they start having more success, more recruits want to come, then you start seeing, as Utah has called it for the last 10 years, a talent gap, right? And that's what you want in Provo. You want a talent gap over Utah.
Absolutely. This could be one of the best things to happen to BYU, where it puts them into chaos. If Morgan doesn't pan out, and I'll be real, I have not been impressed with his hires that he's made. Maybe they are under the radar guys, but many of them, it's their first time coaching college football. They come from high school. I have not been impressed with the names he's hired. If that does not turn out well, absolutely the top talent in the church and the top talent in Utah is going to consider BYU at a lot higher end than they're going to consider Utah. Here's my immediate need from a BYU perspective. They need to freaking announce who is the defensive coordinator and who is the defensive backs coach. Like, every day that goes by in the portal, I'm like, we would be better off in actually recruiting these guys if they knew for sure, announced who their defensive coach was going to be, who's their guy they're going to be in the room with every single day. I don't know what the delay is, but I hope BYU figures it out and makes an announcement. I'm hoping today.
Yeah, and I think it will be today. I mean, obviously, we've had the holidays. We've had, I think coaches have probably been away from the team. Players have probably been away from the team. And so, yes, it is portal period, and it is a big – but I do think that players commit to teams and systems more so than, individual coaches. Granted, you're still being recruited by a coach. And when I say coaches, I mean coordinators. I think players would still commit to Kalani. They're going to commit to BYU as a system. They're going to commit to a defensive system that's had success.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're really missing out, and they're going to commit to money, right? So you're not missing out on a lot of those by not having a DC. Plus, we don't even know if the team knows. There's a chance that the team knows who the DC is.
Correct.
I'd be surprised because I feel like that would have been leaked by now.
Correct.
But the team may know. And honestly, I think the media kind of knows already too. Fans kind of already know too, right? We talked about K-pop. So Kelly Poppinga seems like, to me, it was between Jernaro Gilford and Kelly Poppinga. And the fact that Jernaro Gilford's gone,
yeah,
and the fact that he didn't leave right away,
correct. I think he was leaving his hat in the ring to see how that. If he was the D coordinator, he was going to stay. Once he saw I'm not, then he left.
So to me, that signals that they have their guy, and it's not Jernaro Gilford. It's likely Kelly Poppinga. Now, Kelly Poppinga does have a little bit of defensive coordinator experience. He was the co-defensive coordinator at Virginia alongside our favorite defensive coordinator, Nick Howell. Maybe second favorite behind Jaime Hill, right? The other Jay Hill.
Yeah.
So he's got a little bit of defensive coordinator experience. I don't think he has any defensive play calling experience, but that's where Gary Anderson comes in. I think Gary Anderson has been a pivotal part in Jay Hill's success. Not to say that Jay Hill's not a successful defensive coordinator, but I think Gary Anderson being right alongside him in the booth has been a
former head coach, former big-time defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Like, Gary Anderson is a big deal and such an incredible asset that BYU has. I'm right there with you.
And then defensive backs coach, what I'm hearing is Demario Warren.
Where's he out of?
I'm actually looking that up. I just
Because
saw
here's what I heard yesterday.
Boise State.
And is he black?
Yes.
Because here's what I heard yesterday from someone that knows, is that BYU has their defensive backs coach picked out. Black guy. He's a safeties coach. He has head coaching experience in his past. They're really excited about him. I don't know if that fits with, you had a name that
Oh, I know Demario Warren. Dude, I remember I saw the name and I didn't recognize this guy. Coached at SUU.
Okay.
Coached a really good team at SUU. He actually coached one of my friends growing up at SUU. He obviously played against Jay Hill at Weber State, or he coached against Jay Hill at Weber State. He did have some success at SUU, I remember. Currently at Boise State.
It's got to be him. He was the head coach. He was the head coach at SUU.
I love how we're just researching on the fly here.
Yeah.
I recognize.
We both came in here with pieces. Those puzzles fit together.
I was like, I see this name. I'm going to look him up real quick. And I saw SUU and I was like, I remember this guy. I've interviewed him. When I was at KUTV, I've interviewed him. I covered this team.
Nice.
For a day, right? I think they were in a conference championship game, or they played Weber State in a high impact game, or it was a big game that I think it was for the conference title. And so I went down to SUU to, was it Cedar? I think they play. Is it Cedar? SUU plays in Cedar.
Yes.
And I covered that game. And I remember Demario Warren, left a very good impression on me. Anyway.
Well, that's
light bulb has gone off. I know who Demario Warren is. That's
going to be who the guy is.
So anyway, that's our guess, right? So I think Kelly Poppinga is your defensive coordinator. Demario Warren, who does have some head coaching experience at SUU, currently at Boise State as a secondary coach, will likely be those guys. And I'm in favor of both of those hires.
Yeah, the Kelly Poppinga one it's a little bit of a risk, but I don't know him as a person. I don't know him as an X's and O guy. I have heard that he is very much like a hype guy, a lot of energy. And yeah, I can get behind it. I like the idea of continuity on the defense because our scheme's working. I think we have recruited pieces to it well.
Yeah. And Gary Anderson, I think, will provide more of that continuity, and,
Yes.
and K-pop will kind of fit into that system. They're not going to change the system is the bottom line. I think they're going to stick with what they have. They have the personnel to do a press coverage blitz, exotic blitzes. That's going to be their defense moving forward. And I don't think having a different guy at the helm is going to change any of that. This episode is brought to you by Aptive Pest Control. Aptive believes that every home should be enjoyed. They tailor their pest control treatment plans to target pests when and where they're most active. Plus, if you see pest activity between treatments, Aptive will return to take care of the problem at no additional cost. It's their way of making sure every customer is satisfied and every pest is controlled. If pests stay away, Aptive is why. Visit AptivePestControl.com/loyalcougars or call 844-966-4787. Mention this promotion to get your initial treatment for just $29. That's AptivePestControl.com/loyalcougars or call 844-966-4787. Terms and conditions apply. Get home field advantage with Aptive. Cougar alumni know what it means to rise and shout, and that's exactly what TrueWear Services helps your business do. They specialize in merch production, swag, uniforms, custom printing and design, plus web stores and fulfillment, so repping your company, team, or school is seamless. You've built the brand, now it's time to showcase it. Partner with TrueWear Services today and give your organization the same pride and polish you showed in Cougar Blue. Go to TrueWearServices.com/Cougarboard to get started. Let's shift gears. We've got basketball to talk about. One game this week for basketball and football, right? So we're kind of running out of actual games to talk about, but we'll have two more to talk about in the upcoming week with Arizona State and Utah. But the Kansas State game, give me your initial observations of that game. What did you take away from that game?
I love that not only do we have more talent on the court than almost every team we play, but it's just we're seeing it. Mm-hmm. I thought Kansas State, they came in with a pretty good game plan. They were playing really physical. And at the very early, it's oh no, BYU's going to have another BYU first half. But we were just too good. We just had too many guys that could hit open shots that were hitting. And yeah, even though AJ turned it over a bunch,
7 times,
we still just looked like the better team that entire game. And it was kind of never in doubt after the first few minutes.
Yeah. So I actually rewatched the game last night. This is what I do in my spare time. I think I've said this is a problem that I have. So I rewatched the game. I took some notes. My I guess not my initial, my secondary observations after watching it the second time. So we went to Monster Jam. This is kind of a dumb backstory. We went to Monster Jam on Saturday. And as we're driving there, because I thought the game was Saturday night, as we're driving there, the notification pops up that the game is starting, and I'm like, crap! I've got a Monster Jam thing to be at with my kids, and so during Monster Jam, I have my phone open. I'm kind of watching both at the same time. Anyway, so I watched it for a second time and actually took some notes. My initial observations were BYU moved the ball around really well. I thought they're doing a lot better job of finding open teammates and moving the ball around, where before it was very much iso ball. Rob Wright's really good at isolation. We obviously know how good AJ is at isolation. Richie can isolate. I don't think that's his game, but they've and Kennard is a good iso player as well. And so all these guys kind of just relied on their ability to make plays themselves for the first few months of the season. And it's good to see them kind of not only blow by their guy, but then when help comes, they can find the open teammate, and they're starting to do that. We're seeing a lot of I think BYU assisted in 13 or 15 buckets, which is good. That's good for them. That's more than they've had in the past. I do think AJ was very careless with the ball. Now granted, he did have a lot of contact. The officials just let them play on both sides of the ball, right? Yeah. I think Kansas State got hammered as well, driving to the rack, but AJ turned it over, and it seemed like he turned it over a lot when he was getting out physicaled. People were being physical with him. He's kind of more of a finesse guy. And so 7 turnovers can probably be attributed to that. It also took him out of his rhythm. The team continues to struggle defensively with the pick and roll. And I like that they're going over the pick and roll finally.
Yeah.
It's leading to fewer 3-point attempts. And granted, Kansas State didn't shoot the ball from 3 well. And it's probably because BYU went over screens.
They on the season have shot it really well. This game, they only shot 14%. So I don't know how much of that was an off night or if BYU's defense really was shaking them up.
Yeah. I mean, they had open looks, but they also made some tough one of the 3-3-pointers they had was like a runner coming off of a screen. The guy was like totally off balance and made it. I don't remember who it was, but it was probably Haggerty. I don't know. He made every shot, it felt like. But they were going over screens. Now the problem they're having is Keba and Abdullah Ahmed have a really hard time. Because when you go over a screen, the way pick and rolls work, right, is when you go over a screen, you're essentially, and Rob Wright's really good at this, by the way. Dallin Hall was really good at this last year, at keeping the defender at your back. Mm-hmm. And so essentially there's only one defender between you and the basket, and there's a teammate with you, right? So it's essentially a 2-on-1 with the defender at your back. And what BYU really struggles with their bigs is their bigs don't know how to guard two guys, because that's essentially what they have to do until your teammate, the ball handling defender that's currently behind the ball handler, until he gets back into position. The big needs to guard both positions, and Keba and Ahmed are kind of having a hard time figuring out.
It's not their strength
how to do that, and really it's tough to do. Like it's a tough assignment. That's why. When we say why is BYU continuing to go under screens, I think that's why. Kevin would rather have...
I think they're protecting the bigs.
I think so. I think he'd rather have ball handlers shoot off the bounce from 3 than drive into the lane and have a 2-on-1 situation where there's a lob attempt, there's a pocket pass to the big, there's an easy layup at the basket with maybe an and one opportunity with Keba's aggressive nature on defense, and Abdullah Ahmed I think can tends to foul as well. And so it's a bad situation all around. And so I think BYU needs to figure that out defensively. They need to figure out how to defend the pick and roll. I think AJ, just continuing my observations, AJ is really good at getting to his spot. And his spot it's funny because like this is actually not a super efficient spot on the floor, but it's the top of the key. He thrives at the top. Like he'll dribble. Normally you'll see guys like dribble to the basket and they'll try to get a layup or they'll try to get fouled, and he still tries to get
the
fouled.
Top of the key.
He's dribbling to the top. He sees an open space at the top of the key. That's where he's going, and he's been really good at hitting shots from the top of the key. I've said this already a little bit about Abdullah Ahmed, but he just seems kind of slow. I don't know if that's
And you're not the only one that's observed that. And he seems like he's out of place often on defense. We saw Kennard Davis even like kind of push him. Like, hey, you're supposed to be over here.
Yeah.
And I agree, he does seem a little slow of foot. He seems out of position, but somehow, even with those observances, he's averaging 2 blocks a game, and he's only playing 10 minutes a game. Like, he's finding a way to have impact, rebounding and blocking, even though we can see, hey, he's got to get a little better in being assignment sound and quick-footed.
Yeah. I think I've gone on record to say that I think blocks are a overrated statistic to determine defensive ability, defensive capability. Because we've said this before. I think Keba Keita is an overrated defender because he gets so many blocks. Now, I'm very much a fan of Keba, right? This is not me bagging on Keba, but I think the ability, the best defenders stay in front of their guy. And Rudy Gobert is a guy, obviously Jazz fan. Rudy Gobert is a guy that I remember seeing impact the game in a way that it didn't show up on the stat sheet, but it was the way he impacted a game was massive, and he rarely got blocks. But what he did well was he stayed in front of the defender, and he made it so that when the defender went inside the paint, they didn't even shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And so he's not going to get there's no stat tied to that, right?
By affecting their shot or making them decide not to shoot.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you don't get a block, right, you're still affecting the shot. And I think Keba and Abdullah Ahmed have a tough time really defending at the rim. Now, granted, yes, they get block shots. They're 6'10", right, and they have massive wingspans, so they're going to get block shots. Usually those are off of like help defense, right? So a guy that's driving on a guard that's guarding him, they come in from the weak side and block the shot there, and that's great. Like that's still a great defensive possession. My point is, on ball defense, they both still struggle with, and I think Abdullah Ahmed kind of moving as slow as he was is a little bit concerning, especially when he has. Again, in that pick and roll situation, when he has to guard a point guard and a big at the same time, struggled a little bit with that. I thought Boscovich played really well.
Correct.
Probably his best game of the year.
Boscovich has turned himself into like a different player. He, at the beginning of the year, he was shooting stupid shots, just looked like chaotic out there. Now he's pretty assignment sound, only takes good shots. He keeps getting nice defensive plays.
Yeah.
Like, I am happy for Boscovich.
He's a confidence guy. He relies a ton on, and I hope JT doesn't reach out to me on Instagram or Twitter for this, but like JT was very much a confidence shooter, right? If he was confident, which most cases
he could take over a game.
He would heat check his second shot of the game, right? He'd be like, I made my first shot, heat check, right? And he could take over games from the 3-point line. Boscovich probably not the same level of JT as far as, volume shooter, but when Boscovich is feeling it, he's feeling it. He's confident, he's looking good. He's celebrating a blocked shot before the ball's while the ball's still in play, right? Like he's just like super hyped. And I thought Boscovich, if he can continue to have these types of games, he'll be a big impact or a big asset for the team. I was surprised we didn't see any of Boop, and we haven't really seen much of Boop since Ahmed came in, which I think is a good thing in the long run because Boop is a project. Boop is a
and he's not really a 5. We were playing him out of position.
Yeah. But I don't think he's a 4 either because he's got to shoot.
I think he's going to be a matchup. I think he's either going to play 10 plus minutes a game against certain teams or 0. Like sure. I think with how good our starters are, that Kevin Young's going to play a 7 or 8 man rotation, and who that like 7th, 8th man is going to be is depending on the style of team we're playing that game.
Yeah. Exactly. We saw 8 against Kansas State. It was Boscovich, Ahmed, and I think Ahmed is going to be your kind of 6th man. He'll be always the first guy off the bench.
And Maras played hardly any, so it was almost a 7-man rotation.
Yeah, so you'll probably see a little bit of Kostic. You'll see some Maras. You'll see some Boscovich. You'll see some Boop. I think that's kind of your.
That's it, probably.
As far as like 7th or 8th man, it's going to be that rotation of guys. But I think if Boscovich can solidify that spot as the 7th man or the 2nd man off the bench, if he can continue to play as well as he did against Kansas State. BYU did have a hard time, and this is where we miss Mawut Mag. BYU had a hard time staying in front of PJ Haggerty.
Yeah.
And they're going to be facing guards like that all throughout the Big 12. And not only that, but like the inconsistency of officiating, which what we kind of saw in this game, which is like, how do Mawut Mag was really good at this. How do you defend physically and aggressively without fouling? And, Boscovich fouled out within 15 minutes of the game, 15 minutes of playing time. And so like Kennard Davis was supposed to be this, great on-ball defender. I think he's still a good on-ball defender, but he's not a Mawut Mag. And so I'm not saying I'm concerned, but I think BYU needs to figure out how to lock down the opponent's best player, especially when that player is so good as Haggerty was at getting to the rack.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit of an eyebrow raiser for me, which was how easily Haggerty was crossing guys over and getting to the paint and finding teammates and scoring buckets. BYU needs to do a better job of locking that guy down. And then the last thing I wrote down was I thought BYU has been doing a lot better job of rebounding. And I don't know if Ahmed's been a part of that, but I think even like Keba, you see AJ crashing to the boards a lot. You see Rob even getting some Rob's a pretty good rebounder for a point guard.
Yeah.
BYU is getting a lot more rebounds, and it led to, I wrote this down, second chance points. And I thought, it's 20 second chance points for BYU. They out-rebounded Kansas State 47-35.
Well, and who has really improved in this is Keba's getting so many rebounds. Like he can jump out of the gym, and it just seems like he's almost getting just a knack, which I'm not relating him to Dennis Rodman, but Dennis Rodman just had a knack of knowing where the ball was going to go. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Keba is getting that like sixth sense. And it really makes it a tough assignment for whoever's playing us, because if you're trying to take away his ability to board and you're having players go, we have some freaking studs in transition that if you're trying to pack it in for trying to get offensive rebounds, then AJ and Rob Wright and Richie, they will run you into the ground in transition. So it really is a tough, pick your poison. We're going to beat you one way or the other. We're going to either out-rebound you by 20 or we're going to transition you into oblivion.
Yeah. So BYU now faces probably its easiest week of the season.
Don't jinx it.
I know. Didn't we jinx it last year? Did they lose last year to Utah?
Yeah, we've
At
gone
Rice
1-1 with them. Like
Huntsman
we
Center?
went 1-1 with them last year. Yeah.
Yeah, can't do that again. And we've already talked about Utah's attempt to keep BYU fans from going to the game. I still think we'll see a lot of BYU faithful at the Huntsman Center. But first, we've got Arizona State at home. And Arizona State's 9-5. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They lost to UCLA, Oregon State, and Colorado their last 3 games. They're a number 86 net, which would be a quad 3 win for BYU. They do have a win against Texas and a win against Oklahoma. And so they're kind of a wild card team. They're capable. I would love nothing more than to see Hurley lose and for Hurley to lose his mind.
Hurley goes crazy.
He's just pure entertainment on the court, and for him and The Rock to go at it will be must-see TV. So I'm hoping we see a little bit of that. But in terms of Big 12 numbers, they're number 11 on offense, number 12 defense. They've got the second to worst scoring margin. Utah, by the way, has the worst scoring margin in the Big 12. They're not a good shooting team. They're a 15th three-point shooting team in terms of percentages. They do get to the free throw line pretty well, so they get it inside. They're physical. They draw fouls and get to the free throw line, but they also foul their opponents, and so they send their opponents. And BYU is really good at getting to the free throw line, and so we'll probably see a lot of free throws in this game. And then the last thing, they don't rebound well. They're 16th in rebounding the Big 12. That's dead last. Again, this is a game that I feel like BYU should win. Arizona State's weaknesses feed into BYU's strengths, which is getting to the rack, getting to the free throw line, shooting free throws. So I think BYU wins this one going away. Any thoughts from you on Arizona State before we move on to Utah?
We should be able to beat them. But the Big 12, every game's tough. We're only 5.5 point. That's not true. That's looking at
There's
a different
no way
game.
that's true.
That's not true. That's looking at a different game. Pulling up the right game, there's no line on this game yet. So
that's how bad it is.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe we're 50-point favorites, and they're like, we can't put that. When you go through what their weaknesses are, like they can't rebound and they foul a lot, those play into BYU's strengths. This should be a fun game where we put on a show at home.
Yeah. So then we go to Utah. When I say we, I mean they. You know who actually hates it when in a journalistic capacity says we? Do you know who hates that?
Who's that?
Greg Wrubell.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he would. I remember he would like correct people.
Yeah.
Like his play-by-play guy. He's like, you can't say we. Don't say we.
I think that even those guys could say we, and I think as a BYU podcast we could say we.
Yeah. Well, they're employed by BYU now. When I interned for Greg, they weren't. It was KSL, right? It's still KSL Radio, and so it was. It was Riley.
He was
Nelson,
trying to. He's really big on journalistic.
Yeah. No, he's
neutrality.
Yeah, and he'll you accountable. I'm very much. Greg's a mentor to me, so I like Greg. Okay, at Utah. Utah's 8-6. They lost to Cal Poly and Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, I think, has the potential to be a tournament team, but Cal Poly definitely not a good loss. They did beat Ole Miss randomly. I don't know how they managed to do that. They're 142 in net. That would be another quad 3 win because it is on the road. If we were to win that game, so two quad 3 games coming up on the schedule. In terms of numbers in the Big 12, Utah's number 10 offense, number 15 defense, the worst scoring margin, as I said, in the conference. They are 16th in opponents' field goal percentage, meaning opponents shoot the ball well against Utah. They're not great at defending. And then they send opponents to the free throw line. They're number 3 in opponent free throw attempts. Number 15. So we're facing the 2 worst rebounding teams in the conference. Utah's 15th in rebounding. They're also 15th in turnover margin and 16th or dead last in assist to turnover ratio. So again, another, as bad as Arizona State is being a number 86 net, Utah is a number 142 net. That is a game that BYU has no business. Neither of these games are games that BYU has any business losing. And so
no, especially the Utah game. Like the reality, Utah is the worst team in the Big 12. There's no one in the Big 12 that's worse at basketball than the University of Utah, and they're actually hurting our overall conference rating. Like we're currently the number 2 ranked basketball conference. But when you take Utah out of it, this like horrible outlier, then we're number 1. So it's like step up Utah, but it's not going to happen this week against BYU. What I will say though, if you are a part of the Utah basketball community, this game means a ton. Like they could have a horrible season, but it buys them some time for the staff and with fans and with donors if they could find a way to beat BYU. So they are going to give us their best shot that's not like a very bold prediction. They are bad. It will just be curious if their insane effort can outplay how bad of a team they are.
Yeah, they did bring in that player from Spain. I wish I would have researched a little more into how much of an impact he's making, if he's even playing for them yet. But they did add a guy that could potentially make them a better team. But again, they're 142 in net, and so I'm not incredibly worried. Now, again, it's Utah.
Yeah.
And anything can happen, especially at the Huntsman Center. Even with, I've been to games where it was overwhelmingly BYU fans. It felt like a home game, and Utah still found a way.
Yeah.
At the Huntsman Center to win. And so it's anything can happen in a rivalry game, but I expect BYU to win handedly, both against Arizona State and Utah. Tosh, thanks as always for hopping on. Hopefully your New Year's resolutions are still intact.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
If you like what you heard today, please head on over to YouTube, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Again, we're going to give away some of this Cougarboard merch store stuff, so leave us a comment and we'll hit you up and enter you to potentially win one of these things. We're going to talk about these games as well as any other transfer portal news that we get next week. Hopefully, we get some good news coming out of the transfer portal for BYU.
Absolutely.
We'll talk about that next week. But for now, this is the Loyal Cougars Podcast. I'm your host, Jake Evans. That's Tosh McIntosh. We will see you next time.
Have a good one.